when I knelt on one knee to propose to May. A passerby nearby saw it, and a girl couldn't help but laugh. "Uncle, do you sanitation workers still play romantic? Have you swept the ground clean?" I ignored them and took out the box, revealing the ring. It was bought with 3 months of my savings. May was so surprised that she covered her mouth, tears sparkling in her eyes. The woman exclaimed in surprise again. "If someone gave me a ring like this, I would just throw it in the trash." May lowered her head, saying nothing. We had long been used to being bullied. But today was different. Today was her 40th birthday, and we had agreed to spend it happily. I held back my embarrassment and took out a beautiful bouquet of roses from my arms. They say middle-aged men become more shameless as they grow older. But at this moment, my heart was pounding with anxiety. I was so afraid she wouldn't like it. The girl wanted to lean in for a closer look, but the boy beside her stopped her. The boy said coldly, "Don't go over there. That's not a rose, it's a Chinese rose. I just saw him pick it up from the ground. I'm afraid it might have bugs." The girl said in surprise, "Uncle, you're chasing after Auntie but won't even spend money on flowers? Annie, listen to me. Never be with a man who won't spend money on you." I glanced at them, my face turning red. These flowers were indeed picked up by me, but this was agreed upon with the person in charge. The sanitation bureau was going to replace the flowers in the city, and the person in charge promised to let me choose from the roses that were about to be replaced, so they wouldn't go to waste. Every single one was carefully selected by me, all roses that May likes. May blushed, took the rose from my hand, and quietly said, "They're really beautiful." She didn't dare offend that girl and politely said, "Miss, I like this kind of flower, so you don't have to say anything." Under the sanitation worker's cap, her face was tanned to a wheat color, flushed all over with a rosy hue. But she was clearly speaking politely, yet the girl suddenly said excitedly, "I was trying to help you kindly, and this is how you talk to me?" May was startled and quickly apologized. The girl was obviously drunk. The street we are responsible for is the nightclub street, where many people are drunk, which is also why we are often bullied. We sanitation workers start work at 4 o'clock, and the streets are already empty by then. This couple is still on the street at 4 in the morning, so you can imagine how much she is drunk. When there is public supervision, people always say not to look down on sanitation workers. But after drinking, they all revealed their true colors, taking their disdain for the poor and love for the rich to the extreme. The person in charge told us that the respect people show us depends on public opinion. It's because they care about their own face, not because they truly respect us, so we must never provoke them. If it were any other time, we would definitely have changed places. But today, I have already set up heart-shaped candles for May. Fortunately, the man didn't seem too drunk. He gently comforted the girl and led her into a Porsche. I waited until they left, then finally took out a piece of paper from my pocket and sincerely said to May, "I've just learned a new song, and I want to sing it for you." May nodded happily all the while. For people our age, boldly expressing love is a joy. We may feel shy, but we will never be ashamed. I looked at the words on the paper and began to sing very earnestly. "I love you like the wind that has traveled thousands of miles, never asking when it will return, like the sun that rises and sets regardless of morning or evening." I really liked this song, and I sang it with great emotion. May took off her gloves, couldn't help but turn her head and wipe away her tears. But just then, the car window suddenly rolled down. The girl suddenly began to vomit violently outside the car window. She threw up a lot on the ground, then wiped her mouth and said, "I already feel sick from drinking, and now I have to listen to such awful music." The boy comforted, "It's meant for migrant workers to listen to. It's normal that you can't stand it." The girl impatiently tapped the car door and shouted at us, "I'm already sick of it. Aren't you supposed to be sweeping? Hurry up and clean it properly." May held the flowers and said to the girl, "Miss, why are you bullying us?" The girl got angry as soon as she heard that. She shouted, "Who bullied you? Do you speak without thinking?" She suddenly grabbed a cup of milk tea from the car and smashed it hard at us. I wanted to protect May, but it was too late. The milk tea splashed all over May's face, leaving it drenched, and her hair was covered in milk tea too. I clenched my fists in anger, and the girl said impatiently, "What are you looking at? Want to hit me? Try hitting me. Can you afford to pay for it?" I lowered my head. I know, I can't afford to pay for it. Even if I'm just a janitor, I know what a Porsche represents. The girl grew angrier and angrier. She got out of the car, walked over to us, and pointed at May, saying, "Do you even know what it means to be a new era woman?" She spoke loudly, and May was a little scared and backed away. The girl came up to us, snatched the rose, smashed it hard on the ground, and said to May, "It's women like you from the post-70s and post-80s generations who are to blame for us new era women." The boy quickly ran to our side and protected the girl. He said gently, "Stop arguing. Why bother fighting with them?" The girl was clearly drunk. She cried out, "I get so angry whenever I see her. She's just like my mom and those aunts of mine." She suddenly raised her hand, pointing to the ring on her finger, and said, Do you know what this is? May pursed her lips. I knew it. May was about to cry. Whenever she felt wronged, she would tightly press her lips together, trying hard not to cry. I pulled May behind me with a heart full of pain, wanting to take her to clean up and then call the police. But the girl was relentless. She followed us closely, constantly asking, "Tell me, do you know what this is?" May honestly said, "I don't know. It looks like a copper ring." The girl was stunned. After a brief moment of daze, she suddenly rushed forward, grabbed May's hair fiercely, and shouted, "Are you blind? This is Cartier, this is rose gold. Do you know how much this costs? You can't afford it even after working for a year." May cried out in pain. I hurriedly tried to pull the girl's hand away, but the girl screamed, "Don't touch me." She withdrew her hand on her own and said excitedly, "Don't touch me. Your hands are used for rummaging through trash bins." May still pressed her lips tightly, wiping away tears as she spoke with a sobbing voice. "Miss, what exactly do you want? It's my birthday today, please don't bully me anymore, okay?" The girl said excitedly, "You bullied me first. You said my 30,000 yuan Cartier ring was just a copper ring. Apologize to me, apologize right now." As she spoke, she raised her hand, actually intending to slap May. I quickly stepped in front of May, and that slap landed on my shoulder instead. The girl quickly took out some hand sanitizer from her bag and disinfected her hands. I was starting to lose my temper, and I said, "Are you trying to start a fight?" The boy saw that a fight was about to break out, so he quickly said, "Don't make a big deal out of this. My girlfriend drank and is in a bad mood. She's not mad at you. Your personality is like her mother's. She's actually angry at her own mother." May wiped her tears and said, "I'm not her mother, so why is she taking her anger out on me?" The girl spat angrily, and it happened to land right on May's face. She cursed angrily. "You think you deserve to be my mom? I don't have a mom who sweeps the streets. Even if my mom is a pushover, at least she's the wife of a factory owner." She grew angrier as she spoke and suddenly took out her phone. She said, "I'm going to call and complain right now. Sanitation workers aren't doing their job properly. They're confessing their love on the street. Look at you, covered in mud and germs. Do you even deserve to?" I was trembling with anger as well. I took out my phone and said, "If you want to complain, I'll call the police right now." As soon as he heard I was going to call the police, the boy hurriedly took a wallet out of his pocket and threw 200 yuan on the ground. He said, "All right, stop arguing. My girlfriend shouldn't have hit you. Let's just end it here." He put away the wallet, put his arm around the girl, and walked toward the car. The girl cried out loudly, "Why are you helping them?" She said, "My Cartier is made of copper. This is the most embarrassing moment of my life. Why don't you look at what kind of ring you bought? Even my grandmother wouldn't wear it. You should call the police on him." I pressed 911, about to dial, when she suddenly chuckled. "I'll go to jail, and my dad and my boyfriend will immediately buy me luxury bags to comfort me. But what about you? You're probably still working on this street, right?" I asked, "What do you want to do?" The girl smiled. "What else could I do? Of course, find someone to deal with you. I'll bring people to drive around this place. I don't believe I can't find you. Or maybe you can quit your job, but would you be willing to?" I clenched my fist tightly. May grabbed my arm firmly. The girl laughed harshly. "You know I'm going to mess with you, and you also know you might end up with broken legs or hospitalized. But to avoid losing those few hundred yuan in wages, you won't quit. Poor people, I'd dare throw away a few hundred yuan in the trash, but you have to live in fear every day for a few hundred yuan, waiting for me here." After she finished speaking, as if boasting, she pulled out her boyfriend's wallet, took out a few hundred yuan, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it directly into the trash can. May, hearing her words, grabbed my arm fearfully. She whispered, "Shall we apologize?" I gritted my teeth, my heart full of bitterness. A surge of anger was stuck in my chest, unable to be released. I was once young too. 20 years ago, I also stood on the streets of this city, holding a nylon bag full of luggage, dreaming of conquering this city and vowing to become someone remarkable. In my hopeful youth, I never imagined I would fall to the state I am in today. Just because we are old, just because we are poor, does that mean I don't even deserve to have a love? I wanted to take action, but I didn't dare to bear the consequences. I know I can't afford to pay. I'm 42 years old, and my life won't have a chance to start over. I could only lower my head and say softly, "I'm sorry." I apologized. Even if she threw milk tea at the woman I love, even if she hit me and spat in our faces. But in the end, I could only apologize and say sorry. I don't know what happened. I couldn't help but cry, standing on this street. I cried until I was a little breathless. I have been scolded many times in my life, and I have also been bullied many times. This time was different. Only this time, the woman I love stood by my side, yet in front of her, I lost all my masculinity. The boy I once was seemed to be completely killed at this moment. Just half an hour ago, I was still fantasizing about May's happy smile, imagining her throwing herself into my arms. I would hold her tightly, tightly, and deeply inhale the scent of her shampoo. Yet now someone tells me that you only deserve to be humiliated, that you don't deserve to have a romance. Only then did the girl nod in satisfaction, and the boy quickly threw down a few hundred yuan again. I hurriedly took May by the hand and got into the car. I cried until my voice was hoarse, sobbing so hard I could barely catch my breath. May held my face, her lips pressed together as she cried, and said to me, "We won't cry. It's not our fault. Others will get their comeuppance." I thought, I must look terrible crying like this. But I couldn't stop. Every time we encounter bad people, we believe that they will surely get their comeuppance. But for the rich, retribution is always painless and insignificant. Even if we send that girl to the police station, her father will immediately pay the bail, give her pocket money to comfort her, and spend money to have people deal with us. Wiping my tears, I said, "I just said I love you, but you haven't even agreed yet, and I've already let you suffer such great injustice. I can't even help you seek justice." May found it harder and harder to keep her mouth closed. She choked up and said, "Only those who have done wrong cry. We don't cry." Seeing me cry so hard, May wanted to hug me, but was afraid of dirtying her sanitation uniform. She unbuttoned her clothes and let me press my face against her shoulder. She pressed her face against my head and said, "I promised you, I don't think you're shameful. I think you're very rational, very mature." Just then, the sound of an engine suddenly roared to life. I turned my head and saw it was still that couple. The girl was filming us with her phone, shouting exaggeratedly. The sanitation worker just confessed and then groped her chest on the street. "I'm posting this on Facebook." I was stunned, and May was dumbfounded too. She hurriedly pushed me away and said, "No, I'm wearing clothes underneath." The girl excitedly shouted to the boy beside her, "Hurry up, I want to post this on Facebook." I was going crazy. They took the photo from behind me. This angle is easily misunderstood. Once this kind of photo gets out, May's reputation will be ruined. I hurriedly wiped away my tears and ran towards the car, grabbing the handlebar. At that moment, the car started. I was pulled forward by the car as it sped up, my legs completely unable to keep up. I suddenly threw myself forward, watching helplessly as the wheel came so close to my head. May screamed in fright, and the car hurriedly swerved the steering wheel. The tire brushed past right over my head. I rolled on the ground and stared blankly at the car. The car crashed into the guardrail beside it, knocking down a large section of the railing. The boy got out of the car, and seeing that I was unharmed, he shouted at me anxiously, "Are you crazy?" He had been reasoning just moments ago, but suddenly rushed up to me and delivered a fierce kick to my face. He shouted angrily, "If you want to die, don't drag me into it. I'll go to jail, do you understand?" The girl got out of the car again, her face pale with fear. She cried, "You almost killed my boyfriend. Crushing someone to death means going to jail. People like you could die and it wouldn't matter, but you would ruin my man's whole life." The boy grabbed my collar, gritting his teeth as he said, "Wasn't the matter just settled? Why are you still chasing after me?" He was panting, his face twisted with rage, eyes wide open, glaring fiercely at me. I covered my arm and said, "You all delete the photos immediately." But the boy ignored me. He glanced at the iron railings on the ground, then walked to the front of the car to take a look, cursing, "The headlights are completely smashed." The girl was frantic. She suddenly ran towards me, but because she was wearing high heels, she almost fell. She took off her high heels, lunged in front of me, and raised the shoe to strike my head hard, angrily scolding me. "Do you know how much it costs to repair a Porsche? Do you know how much a car headlight costs?" I was hit so hard that I felt dizzy, holding my head. She scolded angrily, "You simply can't afford to pay for this. Am I wrong for hitting you?" I covered my head and said, "You clearly saw me grab onto the car, yet you kept pressing the accelerator. Why should I pay compensation? You are the ones at fault, suspected of dangerous driving." After I finished speaking, they suddenly looked at me in shock. I didn't understand why they were surprised, but then the girl turned to her boyfriend and said, "This street cleaner is acting strange. It seems like he's deliberately trying to ask us for money." The boy also furrowed his brows tightly and said, "What word did you just use? You said suspected of dangerous driving. That's not a term someone like you would understand, is it?" I was stunned. Why can't I understand? When I was young, taxi drivers were in high demand. I once learned to drive from someone. The girl said excitedly, "How could we not know what suspected means? People who normally sweep the streets wouldn't even know how to write this word." The boy no longer tried to break up the fight like at the beginning. He walked up to me and grabbed my hair forcefully. He asked me with a grimace, "Wasn't I good enough to you just now?" At this moment, May had already caught up. She said anxiously, "What are you doing?" The boy shouted angrily, "Shut up. I've helped you again and again, and now you want to ask me for money?" I gasped, "You never helped us." He frowned. "What did you say?" I said, "When we were beaten and bullied, you threw money on the ground for us to pick up. Just now, when I grabbed the car door, you immediately sped off to leave. You're just like your girlfriend, never once looking at us properly. He said, I pity you and kindly helped you, and now this is how you repay me? I wiped the blood on my forehead caused by the high heel and softly said, our supporters have said that those who pity us are actually the ones who look down on us. Because they feel superior to us in their hearts, they think we are pitiable. The boy said coldly, I'll show you right now what real bullying is. He grabbed my head, suddenly lifted his foot, and kicked me hard in the face. 1 kick, 2 kicks, 3 kicks. He kicked while shouting angrily, it costs tens of thousands to repair the car, and you can't afford to pay. Just lie here quietly. May was devastated watching from the side, crying, let him go. You'll kill him if you keep hitting him. She threw herself beside the boy, grabbing his arm, pleading, stop hitting him, you'll kill him. The boy pushed May away fiercely and cursed. I'm the one who lost tens of thousands now, and you still feel sorry for yourselves and want me to let him go? Kneel and apologize to me. May quickly knelt down on the ground. She pleaded, stop hitting me, it's all our fault. If you want to post those photos, go ahead, it's all our fault. The girl shouted angrily, you just dared to say my Cartier is fake. I think both of you deserve a beating. Now that the girl is drunk and acting wild, the boy won't protect her anymore. She rushed to May's side, grabbed her hair, and slapped her hard across the face. I'll beat you to death, you old woman. You even want the monthly rose you picked up off the ground. That's not a rose, it's a monthly rose. Women's value is lowered by women like you. May tried to dodge to the side after being hit, but the girl held tightly onto her clothes, tearing her sanitation worker uniform to shreds. After tearing the uniform, she grabbed May's vest, trying to pull her back to continue hitting her. May was frantic, clutching her vest, but the girl kept hitting hard. May protected her vest, but couldn't protect her face. If she protected her face, she couldn't protect her vest. Her clothes were all torn, and she covered her chest in shame and despair. At this moment, the boy couldn't help but glance, and the girl noticed. The girl exclaimed, you even look at such a lowly woman's body. The boy hurriedly said, I didn't look. The girl angrily scolded, I clearly saw you looking. Are you men always this dishonest? You can even look at women of this level, huh? She grabbed May's vest and pulled it down hard, shouting hysterically, look, don't you love looking? You can even look at a cleaning lady's chest. I'm about to throw up. She seemed to have been wronged, wiping her tears as she said, you're so cheap. You can even look at poor people like that. Why don't you just give her a few $100 to keep you company for the night? I'll help you pay. The girl opened her purse and slapped cash, bill by bill, onto May's face. She said, you sleep with my boyfriend. After all, he's even interested in a woman like you. May was terrified. She cried loudly, clutching her chest. But no one cared about May's cries. No one cared about her innocence. The boy said helplessly, darling, I really didn't look at her. The girl persisted. Then kick her in the face. The boy fell silent. The girl shouted angrily, kick her right now, or I'll break up with you. The boy quickly lifted his foot and kicked fiercely at May's face. I grabbed his leg with one hand. The boy almost lost his balance. He looked down at me and said coldly, let go. I held his leg tightly, gasping for breath. They saw I wouldn't let go, and the girl lunged at me again, picking up the high heel to hit me once more. I grabbed her wrist again. I held the boy's leg with one hand and grabbed the girl's wrist with the other. I turned my head and forced a smile at May. I don't want to endure this anymore. May shook her head. No. Just endure a little longer, everything will pass. I whispered, they will definitely beat us until we lose money, until we surrender, until we are in debt. Do you know why they want to beat us? May shook her head, saying she didn't know. I looked up and stared at the boy. I said, you'd rather hit me on the street than call the police. You actually drank, didn't you? In an instant, the boy's face became noticeably unsettled. May immediately understood what I meant, quickly got up, put on her clothes, and ran toward the sidewalk. She picked up her phone to dial, and soon she anxiously said, there's been a car accident, the driver was drinking, please come quickly. The boy finally got anxious and said, don't report it. I don't want you to pay me. I shouted angrily, it's entirely your fault. Don't treat stopping bullying others as a favor to yourself. The boy asked, how much do you want? Name your price. I held them tightly, refusing to let go. No amount of money matters to me anymore. It's because of our concessions that they keep bullying us over and over again. I won't back down anymore. I won't lose my manhood in front of the woman I love. The girl frantically pounded on my back with her hands, anxiously saying, let go. Do you know how much money my boyfriend will lose if he goes to jail? I endured the pain, refusing to let go. I held onto them tightly, while looking at May. She stood on the sidewalk, constantly wiping her tears, telling the police our location. The police will be here soon. But there was a surge of impulse in my heart. I told myself, no more enduring. I once stood on the city street, holding a nylon bag full of luggage. I fantasized that I would become remarkable. I fantasized that I would have a love. I fantasized that I could have a home of my own in the city. I abide by the law, and I firmly believe in getting rich through hard work. But today, little by little, I am killing the boy I once was. In 2007, I once held a bottle of wine, drinking deeply while watching the night view from the rooftop. In 2009, I once held a screwdriver, fighting for my life in the factory, facing the leg-cutting gang that robbed me. The boy in my heart seems to be telling me again and again, don't kill yourself. Many years ago, I was also arrogant. I was once a reckless youth. In those years of youthful ambition, I never imagined I would live a life like this. I pushed the boy hard. Since I was already holding one of his legs, he immediately lost his balance and fell to the ground. The girl was frantic. She raised her hand again, trying to slap me. I landed a fierce punch on her face. Blood sprayed from her nose and mouth together. She rolled back twice, then let out a wail and spat out a large pool of blood. I know she must have bitten her own tongue. She covered her nose and stared at me blankly. Fear appeared on her face, as if in her world, only she was allowed to bully others. But when others decided to fight back, she was completely stunned. I stood up, gasping for breath, and forced a smile at May. I said, May, I love you. Maybe I'll go to jail tomorrow. Listen to me. I love you. I took out another piece of paper from my pocket, stained red with blood. I looked at May, reciting the love letter I wrote with deep affection. Last winter, you saw my hands had chilblains and put on your gloves for me. Those gloves were so warm, with a heart on them. And at that moment, the heart touched my soul. That night when I came home, you were afraid I would be cold again. So you personally wrapped the scarf you knitted around me. You had worn that scarf before, and I held it as I slept, dreaming only of you. Every single one of your actions moves my heart. I love you like the wind that has traveled thousands of miles, never asking when it will return. I love you like the clouds drifting thousands of miles, never resting. At my age, I can only copy down the songs I love to hear. But the paper is short and feelings are long. I cannot finish expressing my love. I ask you 1,000 times, kiss you 1,000 times, I love you. I let go of the crumpled, blood-stained love letter, letting it drift away with the wind. The boy got up at this moment too. He hurriedly ran towards me and kicked me hard. I opened my arms to him, letting him kick my chest. He stared at me blankly. I grabbed his hair firmly and whispered, in 2008, during the snowstorm, I was stuck on the bus home. Back then, for a single cup of instant noodles, do you know how we fought? The boy was stunned, and he shook his head. I said, then watch closely, learn something for your next life. I pushed his chin sharply, and his head immediately tilted back. I clenched my fist, and with all my strength, struck his throat. In an instant, the boy's body shrank, collapsing to the ground, his body twisting and trembling. He gasped out blood, clutching his neck trying to breathe, but no matter what, he couldn't catch his breath. I grabbed his hair, just like he had kicked my face earlier. Then I slightly lifted my foot and tapped my own knee. I said, when you hit me, your shoes are too soft. You need to hit with this part. I raised my knee and struck his face hard. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. At the first strike, he let out a heart-wrenching scream. But from the second strike onward, he could no longer make a sound. His face was covered in blood, and he was dazed. His nose had already been broken by me. He could only twitch his body occasionally and spit out a few more mouthfuls of black blood. I grabbed his hair and threw him aside like a dead chicken. The back of his head hit the ground with a thud. He covered his head and struggled, unable to get up for a while. The girl was already dumbfounded. I walked toward the girl. She kept wiping the blood from her nose, crawling backward in panic like a dog, anxiously saying, if you want to do something, I'll tell you. If you dare touch me, I'll pay to kill your whole family. I came in front of her and asked, what exactly is wrong with my love letter? She desperately tried to get up, but how could I possibly let her escape? Just like she grabbed May's hair earlier, I grabbed her hair and dragged her towards the sidewalk. She struggled continuously, kicking her legs wildly, but could only be dragged by her hair. We returned to the place where she had thrown the milk tea earlier. I said, you want me to clean this up, right? I'll tell you. Now you lick this place clean. After saying that, I pressed her head down hard onto the ground. She struggled in pain, the milk tea blocking her mouth and nose, making it impossible for her to breathe. To get air, she had no choice but to gulp down the milk tea on the ground. She cried, my dad won't let you off. He owns a factory and has many people under him. I ignored her threats and grabbed her hair, dragging her towards the pile of vomit from earlier. She immediately understood what I intended to do and screamed in terror. I was wrong. Don't do anything rash. I've already apologized. I said coldly, apologies from someone like you are not trustworthy. You don't even know you're wrong. You just want me to be a fool who lets you off. I came beside the vomit and said, clean this up. She cried, Uncle, I was really wrong. Please let me go. I can give you money. I pressed her head down. The sour, foul vomit made people feel nauseous just by smelling it. The girl, struggling to breathe, took big bites as she ate. She had only eaten half when she vomited even more. I said, eat it all. Maybe your dad and your boyfriend will spoil you, but once you're out in the world, no one is your dad, and no one will tolerate you. I grabbed the girl's hand, made her pick up the vomit herself, and forcefully shoved it back into her mouth. She struggled to keep her mouth shut, but I clenched my fist and punched her in the nose again. She cried bitterly, her mouth opening again. I immediately grabbed a handful of the puddle on the ground and stuffed it all into her mouth, then firmly covered her mouth. She finally swallowed it. She wanted to vomit, but she tightly covered her mouth. This girl was very clear that as long as she vomited again, I would definitely make her eat it back. She cried, "Can you please let me go?" I shook my head. "Take off your clothes." She covered herself with her clothes, agitated. "What do you want to do? Are you crazy? Even if I die, I would never." Before she finished speaking, I tore off her high heels and slammed them hard against her mouth. She covered her mouth, suddenly not daring to say a word. I grabbed her clothes again and kicked her hard in the back. I said coldly, "Since you won't take off your clothes yourself, I'll help you." I kicked her back several times with force, finally tearing her clothes. She clutched her collar and cried out loudly, "Someone help! The sanitation worker is hitting people." The street was deserted past 4 in the morning. Her cries carried far. I said, "Don't cry. This is the nightclub district, far from residential areas. Everyone has finished work." I picked up the money they had just thrown on the ground, one bill at a time, and slapped it against the girl's face. Her hair was messy, her makeup ruined from crying, her face marred by the ugly stains of dark blood. She sat on the ground crying until I had thrown all the money onto her face. I crouched down, grabbed her hair, and asked her, "Tell me, is my ring tacky?" She shook her head vigorously. I asked again, "Is my love poem cheesy?" She cried, "Uncle, I just drank too much, I'm sorry." I nodded and said, "Uncle can forgive you. Everything you've done to us, I've already repaid you for, except for one thing." She cried and asked, "What's the matter?" I took out her phone, pressed her hand onto it, and unlocked it with her fingerprint. Then I looked at Facebook, and she had actually posted a photo of me and May, with the caption, "This is the inherent flaw of the poor, groping breasts on the street." Fortunately, it was 4 in the morning, and not a single person had liked it. I pointed the camera at her and said, "Smile." She broke down and said, "I'll be too ashamed to face anyone. My reputation is completely ruined." I laughed. "Your reputation is your reputation, but does that mean ours isn't a reputation?" She wiped her tears and said nothing. I said, "What you just did to me, I've already paid back to you double. Now there's only this one thing left. Once it's done, we're even. Either you do as I say, or I'll beat you to death. Your choice." She turned her head, looked at her dying boyfriend, finally covered her torn clothes, raised her scissors hand, and smiled. I took a photo of her, wanted to post it on Facebook, but couldn't think of a caption. I thought for a moment, then casually wrote, "I am a bitch." After posting on Moments, I didn't return the phone to the girl, but threw it into the sewer. She was stunned. I once accidentally dropped my phone, so I know how difficult it is to retrieve it in time. She will soon become famous on Facebook. At that moment, a police car was coming from afar. I sat on the ground, took out half a pack of cigarettes, and tried to bite one. Just as I was about to light it, I glanced at the boy's bulging pocket, reached in, and pulled out a cigar. I said, "One cigar is equivalent to my entire month's salary." I lit a cigar, but I didn't take his for free. I took out $5 and put it back into his pocket. The sound of sirens was getting closer. I sat on the street corner, biting the cigar, wiping the blood from my forehead, and slowly exhaling a puff of smoke. May ran towards me. She threw herself into my arms, grabbed my cigar, and tossed it aside. She said, "Stop smoking." Before I could react, May's face flushed red. She held back her shyness and kissed me. She took off her hat, her long hair cascading down. I wrapped my arms around her waist, stroked her head, and kissed her gently. May's tears fell, and I gently wiped them away with my hand. The police car had already arrived beside us. The girl ran to the police crying, breaking down as she said, "Police, please arrest them quickly." The police asked, "What happened? Wasn't it said to be drunk driving? What's going on here?" May reluctantly let go of me. She said, "You suddenly became immature." I asked, "Then will you still love me?" She held my head tightly and whispered, "I love you. Today is my worst birthday, but also my happiest birthday. I love you. I love you. I want to say I love you many times. You must remember to respond to me." I smiled and picked up the cigarette from the ground. Taking a deep drag, in the smoke, I seemed to see my younger self from long ago. We got into the police car, and May was going to follow along to conduct the investigation. She held me tightly, and I embraced her. Suddenly, I smiled. I never managed to have a home in the big city, but at this moment, I understood. What matters is not where the home is, but whether that person is by your side. I thought I was going to jail this time, But to my surprise, the police told me it wasn't a big deal. They reviewed the surveillance footage and ultimately determined that it was self-defense. The police were quite polite to me. They sympathized with our situation. One officer kindly told me, "Sir, your retaliation is definitely self-defense. Being bullied like that and then fighting back. If we arrested you, it wouldn't make sense legally or in public opinion." I asked, "Doesn't this count as me intentionally injuring someone?" The police shook their head and said, "The last few kicks you gave that girl involve assault. However, those kicks caused only minor injuries, so we have decided to detain you for 3 days. But you must remember, although you are not charged with intentional injury, there is another charge you need to be very careful about." "What charge?" "Your revenge against that girl has already involved the crime of insult. Making someone vomit and then taking photos of it could land you 3 years in prison. But this is not what we are charging you for. Aren't you going to do anything about that?" "It's not that we don't care, but the crime of insult is a private prosecution case, not a public prosecution case." "What is a private prosecution case?" The police officer thought for a moment and said, "To explain simply, for crimes like intentional injury or intentional homicide, even if the victim doesn't want to press charges, we police will still prosecute. But insult is different. Whether you go to jail depends entirely on whether the other party files a complaint. The police won't initiate a lawsuit on this charge on their own." I suddenly understood. The police said, "Anyway, Uncle, just tell Auntie, because that woman is also involved in the crime of insult. If she goes to court to sue you, Auntie can also sue her in court." "Understand?" I asked, "Did she also insult my girlfriend?" Upon hearing the word girlfriend, several police officers suddenly burst out laughing. I asked what was so funny, and they quickly put on serious expressions, saying they weren't laughing. The police said, "She even stripped the auntie's clothes on the street and then threw money at the auntie's face demanding to sleep with her. This is definitely a case of insult. Anyway, just let the auntie speak up. Either you and that woman both bear the charge of insult, or both sides settle it privately." I said in surprise, "Is there really such a good thing?" The police said, "Anyway, the other party definitely won't dare to sue you. We've seen this kind of person many times. They only bully ordinary people and become especially cowardly in front of public authority. Classic bullies who pick on the weak and fear the strong. I've already told you the way to handle it. You'll be detained for 3 days first." I asked, "What about the man?" The police officer's expression turned much colder. "Drunk driving, assault, dangerous driving. He has already been criminally detained. We checked the dash cam. He did notice you holding onto the car door at the time. His stepping on the gas was a deliberate malicious act. And that woman, she will be detained for 7 days." I breathed a sigh of relief. Evil will be punished, and that's good. I was detained for 3 days. But fortunately, no one gave me a hard time. 3 days later, I walked out of the police station, and May came to pick me up. She had changed into a floral long dress and wore a somewhat fashionable straw hat, standing shyly by the street. But when she saw me, she ran towards me and threw herself fiercely into my arms. I held her and spun around once. She giggled in my arms, then wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me. She said, "Bad people always get their comeuppance. I heard that man is going to jail. And that woman, her factory, can't even keep running." Our unit went to her house to demand justice, but found no one there. They had all fled. I looked down at her. She blushed under my gaze and whispered, "What are you looking at?" I held her hand in mine. The ring I gave her was already on her finger. I said, "You are truly beautiful." She nestled in my arms, with a slightly coquettish tone. "Come to my place." "Huh, you haven't finished singing that song to me yet. Come to my place and sing it for me." I chuckled and gave her a fierce kiss. I said, "All right, I'll sing for you all night." She anxiously punched my chest. "Who will keep you company for the whole night?" I said, "I don't care. You invited me to your house." Later, that girl was disgraced and ruined. I don't know who it was, but they exposed what they had done. Her family's factory had orders canceled one after another, and at her own doorstep, people would occasionally come to throw red paint and smash eggs. What surprised me the most was that they even wanted to compensate me. The man paid us 100,000 yuan to lessen his crime. I originally didn't want to settle privately, but the court provided us with free legal aid, and the lawyer told us to boldly accept it, saying this man would definitely go to jail. The victim's forgiveness can only reduce the sentence, but he cannot escape punishment. Sure enough, he was convicted of intentional injury, drunk driving, and dangerous driving, and was sentenced to 4 years in prison. May and I took the money and didn't want to sweep the streets anymore. I want to start a business, and she is very supportive of me. We also wouldn't invest blindly. Over the years, I have taken care of myself and make very delicious egg fried rice. So we set up a stall in the busy downtown area. Every night, May helps prepare the ingredients, and I cook egg fried rice, beef fried rice, pork rib fried rice, basically all kinds of fried rice for the customers. At the peak of business, we could sell over 200 bowls of egg fried rice a day. On average days, we still sold 70 or 80 bowls daily. We were so busy that we hardly had a moment to rest. Together, we earned about 15 or 16,000 a month. On average, each of us made 7 or 8,000 a month, and our lives were much better than before. When setting up the stall, she would sit on my tricycle, holding me tightly, listening to me sing love songs to her. When closing the stall, I would hand the money to May, and the two of us would count it, laughing happily and foolishly. At night, she would prepare the ingredients for me, and when a customer placed an order, she would mischievously call me the chef, saying the fried rice is ready. In the early morning, she would lie in my arms, tenderly massaging the arm that cooked the fried rice until I was exhausted and fell asleep. Only then would she allow herself to rest. Whenever I wake up and see May lying beside me, I would secretly think to myself, these days are truly happy.